Hi guys, the Privacy Impact Assessment or PIA is one of the most important parts of a privacy program. It helps an organization identify its privacy risk and measure the criticality of each risk. The results of the PIA can facilitate an action plan for addressing each risk. In a small organization, the privacy team can perform the risk assessment. In large organizations, the risk assessment responsibilities may have to be spread out across teams. Using the assistance of an external party can help to streamline the process. The importance of performing a PIA is reflected in the mandate that all government agencies such as the Federal Trade Commission or FTC are required by the E-Government Act of 2002 to perform PIAs. Under the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat's Directive on Privacy Impact Assessment, Canadian government departments are required to conduct a PIA. The European Union does not currently have PIA legislation. However, the Madrid Resolution of the 31st International Conference of Data Protection and Privacy includes guidance to European Union member states on the importance of PIAs. The PIA should occur at least yearly across the organization. A higher rate may be prudent depending on the level of privacy risk that exists across the organization. For example, social networking companies such as Facebook are likely to have a greater privacy risk than a blogging site. The PIA should not take the place of privacy reviews that should accompany all new development, marketing, and vendor activities. Consequently, privacy review statistics should be captured as part of the PIA process. The PIA should be as thorough as possible in order to capture as many privacy risks as possible that might exist within an organization. It should be understood that an organization would probably not be able to address every identified risk during an assessment period, but they should be identified and recorded all the same. A person should be identified within each major team to work with the organizational privacy team to develop a coordinated PIA. For complex global companies, performing a PIA can be equally complex. Regulations, contracts, industry agreements, the number of internal projects handling data and extensive privacy notices will all impact the privacy risk of an organization. Several events can trigger a PIA. 1. The creation of a new product or service. 2. A new or updated program for processing data. A merger or acquisition. The creation of a new data center. The onboarding of new data. Movement of data to a different country. Or changes in regulations governing data use. The following factors should be taken into account when a PIA is performed. With which set of privacy regulation must the organization comply? For example, it's the EU Data Protection Directive, the GDPR, the Canadian Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act or PIA, or the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act or COPPA. Which standards such as Better Business Bureau's Code of Business Practices is the organization obligated to uphold as a result of industry membership? Which third-party contractual obligations does the organization have? What commitments has the organization made in its privacy notices? What commitments has the organization made in its internal privacy policies? What data is being collected, processed, and shared by the organization? What are the gaps between the policies and the practices, and what controls are in place to validate privacy practices? Privacy risks identified by the PIA should be categorized by area and prioritized by severity. The prioritization should be measured based on the possible harm to users, liability to the organization, cost to mitigate the risk, and likelihood that the risk will occur. Formulas can be used to measure risk, though they are only a rough gauge of how much a privacy incident might impact an organization. A breach may be innocuous at one company while devastating at another. Having a trusted brand and mature incident response team can go a long way toward minimizing the effects of a privacy incident. Risks can be addressed in several ways: avoid, mitigate, accept, or transfer. Let's use the possibility of a breach exposing credit card numbers as an example of how to address a privacy risk. First is avoid risk. the organization can decide that it will no longer process credit card transactions. Instead, it will rely on a third-party service to process them. Mitigate risk. The organization can decide to encrypt the credit card number during collection and storage, and place tight restrictions on access to credit card data. Accept the risk. The organization can decide that it would be too costly to use a third party to process its credit card transactions or to modify systems to encrypt the numbers. It may instead rely on current practices to protect the credit card data and hope for the best. And transfer the risk. The organization can purchase business insurance to cover the firm in the case of a data breach. Once risks have been identified and prioritized, they should be entered into an issue tracking system and assigned owners. Each incident should be monitored for progress and tracked to closure. Even if the organization determines that it must resolve a risk, it may need to postpone the resolution until enough resources become available to do so. A yearly review of privacy incidents and closures should be made to identify negative trends that may need to be addressed.